The number one question that I get asked by new viewers on my stream is, how do I get started? So here I am to answer that question. I'm really good at it now because I get asked it all the time. We're going to talk about a whole lot of stuff. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the stuff you need and how to get those things. And then I'm going to go into a little bit of an explanation on each of those things, but in future videos, we'll dive a little deeper into them. So we'll start with a list. The basic things that you need. The first one is yourself. You're going to need yourself. You're going to need a good attitude, a willingness to learn, and a willingness to be a little bit silly. You're going to need a group. Ideally 5 people, but anywhere from 3 and up will work, although the more people you have, the longer it will take to get through things like combat, so keep that in mind. One of these people in the group will need to step up and be the DM. We'll get to that a little bit later. In addition to all of these people, you will need a character sheet, a pen, pencil, and paper, as well as the rules in some way, shape, or form, either as the player's handbook or the starter rules that you can find on Wizards of the Coast website. You can find that link down there, or maybe I'll put it up in a card, who knows. And finally, a set of polyhedral dice. You don't even have to go out and get physical ones. You can find digital dice rollers if you don't want to spend the money. In addition to these absolute basics, there are some things that will make things a little bit easier, especially if you are playing in person rather than online. Those things are large graph paper or a dry erase battle map, character and monster stand-ins in the form of minis. You can also use any board game tokens, basically anything that you can have like different colors or shapes of so that you can tell the difference between each one. And of course, more dice is always helpful. If everybody else has their own set of dice or multiple sets of dice, it does make some rolls a little bit easier. And so more dice, good. So you've got your stuff, and now what? This changes a little bit whether you're a new player or a new group. I do suggest having at least one veteran player around just to have somebody who understands the rules already. However, obviously this isn't necessary. So we'll start with the easy one. If you are just a new player, you don't really need to know a whole lot. You really just need the good attitude, the willingness to learn, and open communication with the people that you're going to be playing with. Basically, you just need to talk to your DM and see what expectations they have for you to bring to the table in session 0. We'll come back to what a session 0 is later. They may expect anywhere from just yourself to having a character sheet prepared, as well as dice, a pen, a pencil, and snacks are always encouraged. However, even if you are expected to bring a character sheet, I would expect your DM to help you out with that, whether it be before you guys start playing or during that session 0 where everybody else gets together for character creation. Sometimes that's the way session 0s go, sometimes it's not. It really depends on the table you're playing with, but it really doesn't take a lot. The hard part is finding that group, which again, we'll come back to that later too. So the more complicated one is a new group altogether. So the hardest part of this is somebody needs to take on the role of Dungeon Master, and this person does have a little bit more work to do. However, I do think it's important that the players help the DM out, especially in the case of everybody being new to the game. So everybody's going to have to take a second to start learning the rules. The DM should focus on the basic mechanics as well as finding an adventure that they want to run and learning that, at least to a certain degree. There will always be learning along the way. The other players should focus more on learning the rules specific to the characters that they're going to play, and then they should try to learn a little bit about the basic mechanics as well. The most important part about being a group of entirely new people is that you all need to have patience with each other. Not everybody's going to pick up on the same things as quickly as others, and there is a lot of pressure, especially on the DM, to do everything right. And that's just not going to happen your first time playing. It's important to remember that the main goal of playing D&D is to have fun. And so you have to keep that in the back of your mind. If people are making mistakes or having a little bit harder time catching up to the game, it will come with time as long as everybody puts the work in to learn the rules. And after a couple of sessions, maybe even just after a couple of hours, everybody will kind of start to get the hang of it, especially with this system. It is a lot of the same thing over and over again in a slightly different way. One of the things that we see really often is players always asking, like, it's a d20 I roll, right? Most of the time, that is a yes. And we'll get to that in a later video when we talk about dice a little bit more in depth, but It's one of those things where eventually everybody just kind of starts to pick up on it. Another really good way to start picking up on these rules is to watch or listen to actual plays. I'm going to plug myself here. We do have an actual play campaign that I stream on Twitch. You can find it on this channel as well. But also, there's just a lot out there. You can, of course, watch Critical Role, Dimension 20, but there's also smaller actual plays out there. I really like podcast format, so I've been listening to Roll for Romance recently, which is a little bit different in style to a lot of the other games, but still a fantastic podcast. But of course, these last two sections have been about having a group, but chick, what if I can't find a group? Well, if you can't manage to sucker your friends or family into playing with you, there are other ways to find people to play with you. I would suggest checking out the Reddit LFG. Roll20 has a group finder. It's possible that D&D Beyond has one too. If it does, I will find out maybe by the time I post this video. There are a lot of Discord communities, and just getting on social media and talking to people, looking for people, making connections there can get you in on a game. Your local game store is a great resource. You can try out Adventurers League. I've not played it, but it is a good way to get introduced to the game and meet other people who are part of the hobby. But there are other games that are run at your local game store as well. Just go in, ask about it. And then finally, like clubs at your school, whether that's a elementary school, high school, university, college, a lot of places do have these like clubs and stuff where you can join up and play D&D or other TTRPGs. I know it can be hard to reach out to people that you don't know. However, if you can't talk your friends into playing with you, unfortunately, that's really the only way that you can find a group. But just look at it as making new friends. Even if you can just find one person to go around with you to your local game stores or new clubs, that will help, because it's really hard to play D&D with just one other person. So sometimes that's where you guys are being held back as well. So I do want to dig a little deeper into some of those things that I said that you need up at the top. I don't think I need to describe to you what yourself or a group of people are. Next on that list was a character sheet. You can find character sheets online, also in the back of the player's handbook, but it's really easy to get a hold of these. You can even find ones that are specialized for classes, or they're prettier. You can also find ones that have a better font for people with dyslexia, so more accessible character sheets. You can look for those. Those exist too, which is super cool. We'll dig a little bit deeper into all of the different parts of that character sheet, but it is relatively important to have those. While you could keep track of all of your skills and abilities and stuff on a piece of paper, I just think that having something a little nicer laid out works better. If you are playing online, there are also like form fillable ones, or ones that are a part of Roll20 or D&D Beyond. So those are really helpful if that's the way that you are playing rather than playing in person. A pencil and paper is pretty self-explanatory, but maybe you don't know why you need these things. Mostly for note-taking, for remembering NPC names and places, and especially plot hooks and important details. Some people prefer to take notes on their hit points as well as their inventory on an extra sheet of paper rather than their character sheet, just because erasing and writing in and erasing and writing in kind of makes your sheet look a little dingy. So I totally get that. That's another great use for that pencil and paper. I do think that a pencil is better than a pen for most things, just because you are going to be doing a lot of erasing on that character sheet. But for notes, do you. I prefer to write in a pen, so I totally get that. The player's handbook, or starter rules. So starter rules you can get for free on the Wizards of the Coast website. I will have a link for that down below. But basically this will just lay out how the game works, the mechanics of the game. So the player's handbook also has races and classes, spell lists in it for that character creation part. Though I think you can probably find most of those things online anyways, at least from the player's handbook. There are added races and classes and spells and subclasses in some of the other books, but for just starting out, I think it's better to actually start from the player's handbook just to kind of get a basic idea of how the game works. For an adventure, if you get the starter set kit thing that's available, it actually comes with an adventure. You can also find pre-written adventures online. There are a couple of different sites that you can buy them from. You could also come up with your own if you're confident enough in doing that, if you think that you have a good enough handle on the rules to figure out exactly what kind of roles your players are going to have to make. You're going to have to improv this a little bit if you're the DM anyways. So if you're comfortable writing a story, then you can even do that. And I will make future videos on tips and tricks on writing adventures. And last but not least, dice. We need dice. It's kind of like a thing that everybody who plays D&D just has like billions and billions of dice, but they are important. Like I said before, you can use a digital set. However, you can also use a real set. So there are 7 polyhedral dice, each a different size, or each a different shape, except for one that does have a double shape, but for a reason. So we'll start with the small one. It is a D4. Each one is just called by the number of numbers that it has on it. The next one up from that is a D6. This is just your regular die. A D8. A regular set will have 2 D10s in it. One of them will have 2 digits, one of them will have 1 digit, and that is so you can roll a D100. The next one up from that is D12. And then this is the one that you're going to use the absolute most, is the D20. D&D is a D20 based game. So that's why I will do another video on exactly what each of these dice is regularly used for, but like I said, the D20 is the most important one. The other ones are mostly just used for damage or hit points, but the D20 is used to do the things. But yeah, that's generally all of the stuff that you need. So thanks for watching. Keep your eyes out for some more videos following up on the basics. I will definitely be doing one for new DMs, as well as like an extra one for new players going over the basics. We're gonna do some terminology videos. I've got a lot of plans. If there is something that you want to learn about, pop it down in the comments and I will get to that video faster, because I want to be making sure that I'm making things that you want to see. Don't forget to check me out live on Twitch /chickadee93. All of my links will be down below. The first Saturday of every month, we have an actual play campaign. You can catch up on it on the channel or on my TikTok. I think that's it, so I really hope to see you guys again. I hope to see you guys in my stream. Bye!